Arc Raiders has been out for a couple of days now, but honestly, there's still some things that people don't understand about the game. Even my friends who've already played the SummerSlam didn't know things like this, for example.
There's a locker right there that no one checked.
Well, no, you still get EXP for checking things even if your teammates have checked them, so it's still good to go through.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You'll still get the scavenge EXP.
I didn't get no. Oh yeah, never mind. You're right.
My first tip is going to be, do you remember the fact that in the beginning of the game, if you already have played, you got ganked? Well, for those of you who haven't played Arc Raiders just yet, when you're starting the game and in the tutorial, there's a moment where if you start to open the door, it'll cause you to enter into an animation where you get shot by NPC raiders and they take your items. However, if you put these items inside of the drawer next to it or even on the ground in the area before you open the door, you can pick those items up later and save them and keep them and bring them with you into the future of the game. Now, another thing that I think people need to understand in general about the game is that Arc Raiders isn't your typical extraction shooter. There's actual progression that you need to keep in mind. Your workbenches, for example, all need to be not only made, but level up your gear benches so that you can craft other things and actually craft your blueprints in which you'll need those higher level benches, which you'll need to make those weapons and different types of gear. So just always remember that progression is key. Even when you think about how they designed the wipes with expeditions and the fact that they're optional, suggests that progression is inherently key to the game. It may be tempting to go into every round with a free loadout and try to call it a day, but it's really not advised to do that. Level up your weapons so that you can see the difference in between how they work in just simple things like magazine sizes. Another thing that I would recommend is actually using the free loadout. Now, I know I just said that you shouldn't just go out and with a free loadout and try to take on the world, but more so what I mean is that use free loadouts, especially when you're starting the game, to understand not only how certain weapons work, but just interact with the world, kind of use it as a warm-up to some of your other runs before you run in and just waste all your other weapons and ammo on situations that you might not be ready for, or even maps that you might not be ready for. Not only that, but remember, with free loadouts, it's a risk-free way of grabbing extra things as well as ammo, maybe some weapons, and honestly, like I said, a good way to warm up your session. If you have a free loadout augment, you can also trade them in to Lance in the clinic so that you can get a free loadout in exchange. Literally, tactical, combat, whichever one you want, it'll actually just cost that one free loadout augment. Now, this one is for everybody because it still seems that there's some confusion on how shields work, but understand that they aren't an extra bar of health. Shields only mitigate a small portion of incoming damage without impacting mobility if you're using a light shield, for example, but if you're using something like a heavy shield, it's going to be more moderate of a cost to mobility, but you're going to block a lot more of that damage coming in. Just remember that no matter what, when you get hit, you'll always take white health damage, and the shield is there to decide how much damage you take relative to the shot. That brings us to our next point, which is about the skill tree. You shouldn't ignore it. I honestly recommend going mobility first over the other two, but that's just me personally. Look through the skill tree and try to figure out what your playstyle is and what skills that you want to go for first. There's things in each skill tree that are really useful throughout the game, but for me, for example, I'm focusing on stamina because the more that you can run, honestly, the better that it is, I feel like, in the game, because you can run away from enemies, and if you really have something good, you want to make sure you can run as fast as you can to that extract. But for example, speaking of shields, you have something under conditioning called used to the weight, which means that wearing a shield doesn't slow you down as much. So when you have a medium or even a heavy shield, you won't have as much of an impact to your mobility that you do naturally from that shield. Survival is really good because it allows you to unlock the in-round crafting ability, and that can make or break some of your games depending on what kind of playstyle you have. Once again, look through the skill trees and make sure that you know what kind of playstyle you're going to have, or even make sure that there are some things from each skill tree that you want to get and are able to have enough points allocated to do so. Another tip that I do have specifically for the skill tree is that make sure, if you at all possible, you go into the conditioning enough to getting the skill basically means that your weapons will cost nearly zero as far as weight, but just remember this only accounts for equipped weapons. This doesn't account for weapons that are in your inventory that you have looted, for example, throughout the match. Now, as you know, when it comes to leveling up in the game, each level up gets you a skill point. So, you want to focus on XP to get as high of a level as possible. The max level in the game currently is 75. but just understand that everything gets you XP. Damaging an arc, destroying it, there's a good way to ensure that you get a nice pool of XP throughout the match, but just make sure that you remember that everything counts. And so the more activities that you do technically, the higher XP that you'll gain from a match. Something else though to keep in mind is that while I did say that it's really great for you to get as much XP in a match as you can, quests are the one thing that will level you up the fastest. They are the thing that give you the most XP in the game no matter what. So I do recommend that if you are doing a quest and complete it, I would extract after that, because getting to your next quest and continuing to do extractions after that is going to be more beneficial to you overall when it comes to leveling up than trying to squeeze out every single drop of XP, despite the fact that you'll be missing out on times where you could be spending on other levels, because that's time where you can actually be spending on other quests that you've already completed but you're still in the match trying to get more XP. Something I recommend that you also do is understand how augments fully work. Each augment has a different property and augments not only things like how you have your safe pocket, but stuff like your quick use and your inventory slots. On top of the fact that they also change which shields that you can use. So you can't really use a free loadout or even a looting kit and try to use a medium or heavy shield, because the only shield that you can use with those two types of loadouts are going to be light shields. Another tip I'll give you is the fact that you should probably at least try to see what's inside of the shooting range at least once. There's a chance for you to check out some of the different gadgets and grenades and guns and understand how their properties work without actually being in the field to have to experience how they work. You even have a couple of modifications to adjust how some of these weapons work and see what kind of difference that these things can make. Speaking of gadgets and grenades, understand that your utility in this game is going to save, but don't necessarily spare it. Use it in a smart way that you think will actually apply itself, but don't be afraid to use it necessarily. All your gadgets and grenades are there to serve a purpose. And if you're exploring enough, you can honestly find more gadgets and grenades to help you throughout a raid and keep you sustained. So just remember, every grenade not used is kind of a grenade wasted. The next tip that I have is that I think you guys should understand and learn what loot can be used as consumables. For example, arc power cells, as it says, can be used to repair shields, but there's also other things like moss or aloe that can heal you in the middle of a raid, even if you don't have normal healing items. Next tip is never forget, you always can expand your stash if you have enough money to upgrade it, but eventually you will need to upgrade it. I suggest spending a lot of your money as soon as you possibly can to do so, but this depends on how much you loot and how much you save. As you see, I scavenge kind of a lot of things, so at the moment I'm going to need to start upgrading my stash pretty soon already. Something to remember is that if you're playing with the team and you have a raider hatch key, the hatch will open for 15 seconds completely, so make sure everybody is around and ready to hit that button to make sure that they all get out, because that window is tighter than you think, but will still give you enough time for everybody to get out. Also, once you get to level 12, I would suggest that you buy raider hatch keys whenever you have a chance to. Most of the time when you get out of a raid, you kind of have enough material to sell to buy one, but these things can come in handy, especially because of the fact that all the hatches are going to be away from areas that are more, crowded and going to have other raiders, and it's a silent way to get out of the map without anybody really hearing. Pay attention to map modifiers whenever you load into an area. For example, the Buried City right now at the moment has uncovered caches, which means that yes, there are going to be a lot more, which means that there might be a few more caches, but if you stand around them too long after you find them, they'll explode. There are other things like the Lush modifier, which will allow you to be able to find more food like produce, so you should always be aware of what modifiers are active on the map at the moment. When it comes to arc, learn where all of the different weak spots are. For example, there's 4 turbines on that robot there, but all of the different arc units will have different types of weak spots that you can aim for. If you ever see a camera, you can honestly just melee it. So if you ever find yourself spawning in the area over here near the Formical outpost, what you can do is climb up using this scaffold here, and I won't say 9 times out of 10, more like 7 times out of 10. This is a good place to check always. Sometimes it'll be ammo crates, sometimes it'll be weapon crates. You never know what you'll find, but it's a really nice spot, especially if you spawn right there. For example, this run, I was able to not only get a wolf pack round, I was also able to get an osprey blueprint. So this is a really good spot to check, especially if you spawn here or if you spawn in the scrapyard or anything like that. Even the water towers is not too far of a run. If you see a car with lights active, you'll activate the alarm, but you can just hit the red button so that you can turn it off. Makes it a lot easier for you. You can also hit the engine compartment from what I've heard, but I haven't actually been able to prove that. After every raid, make sure to visit Scrappy so that you can claim the scraps that he has from you. And not only that, make sure to train him so that the scraps that he can grab for you accumulate in quantity at higher levels. If you want to train him, you can always make sure to track the things that you're looking for, which is another tip that I have for you guys, is that you always want to make sure to track your crafting resources so that anytime that you want to make sure that you find something that you need when you're running across it, it'll have the little icon with an eye above it whenever you see it in a looting situation. For example, like this arc motion core. Another thing that you should pay attention to in the game is the fact that you can use the cores of arc to help you tactically. For example, here I have a wasp driver and it says that I can be... For example, here I have a wasp driver that says I can throw it, and when I shoot it, it'll explode. So things like that can also be used in the sense of like the snitch driver, where if you throw it, it'll still make the audible sound that the snitch makes and call in other reinforcements. So you can throw it on other raiders that are trying to attack you for a bit of an advantage, or to get them off of you. Things like door barricades and even barricade kits can really be the difference between life or death in situations that you don't expect, especially in situations where you need to heal up. Another thing to remember with door barricades is that you're actually able to dismantle them. So if that you dismantle them, you actually get it back and can pick it up, rather than it being completely destroyed, reducing the amount of barricades that you waste. I think that's all the tips that I can give you guys when it comes to playing Arc Raiders. There's a lot when it comes to this game, and there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot of secrets still to be held, but those are a couple of the tips that I think that will help you get a bit of an advantage if you're just starting, or even if you've already been playing the game and there's some things that you didn't fully understand. So I hope that you did find something that you learned from the video. If you did, please like and subscribe, comment down below and tell me what you found interesting or any other tips that you know in the game. Share with your friends, share with your mama, and as always, peace and chicken grease. I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm out.